Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Joe Mittiga on the line. He's founder over at Avion Energy, Inc. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to be talking about giving back 1% and what that entails. We're going to talk about Avion Energy. A lot to go through. We want to get into your what happened to you on your way back from South Africa. We got a ton here, but before we get into all of that, I do want to go back a little bit more into you and your history. I see the term founder here. Were you always an entrepreneur? Did it start here? Talk to me about how you got started.
You know, it's kind of funny. I was born in the Midwest. I live in Georgia. I went to Purdue University. And I tell people quite simply, when I left Purdue, which was an amazing school, I learned two things. And I learned how to play chess. And I learned that myself and a boss probably weren't going to be too well off, if you will. So I came out of school, years ago, mid-'80s, and started my own businesses. And I was in the construction world for many years, moved kind of through the process of different things, got here to Georgia, and back in 2010, I started Avion Energy.
Wow. Well, first, to kind of set the stage there, tell us about Avion Energy. Tell us about the company and what you do. Let's start there.
Sure. Avion we're a broker of natural gas and electricity. So basically what we do, we have clients that have multiple locations across the country, and natural gas and electricity in some areas are regulated. You have to use the original supplier. Other places they're not. So we just have created relationships with suppliers all over the country. So our mission at Avion is to make sure our clients stay in best pricing. And we've got clients, for example, that might have 500 locations across the country. And any one person trying to make sure they stay in best pricing from Pennsylvania to Illinois to California to Texas, that's just a real challenge. At Avion, we offer a free service to our client because the income that's created is created on the supplier side. So we've got relationships with over 100 suppliers, and our suppliers know they're competing for our client's business. But that's, our retention rate is 90-some-odd%, and we created a unique system 15 years ago.
Wow, what an amazing story. How did you get that idea originally, or how did you find your niche or realize that this would be something that you'd, sink your teeth into meaningfully? Where'd that idea come from?
Sure, that's a great question. I was involved with an organization that was trying to do it, if you will. I was more on the sales side, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, literally. I built several large global teams back in the network marketing heydays. Teams of 10, awesome. 15, 20, 30, 50,000 people. I was one of those guys way back when.
Man, I always wanted to be one of those guys. I tried. When I was right out of college, I tried, and I didn't last too long, but I love that business, and I love that industry. I feel like some of my best learning and business mentors early on, man, that really helped shape my thoughts around even life, I would say. I had some great mentors in that industry. Love to hear that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things. It is definitely right place, right time, and work hard and you get lucky. Period. Yeah. And that's what happened to me. 2 different times, about 5 or 6 different individuals I happened to find. They took me around the world. So anyways, I'm in this business. They're focused on the residential side of things. And we would work and get a client. And they were just starting to move into the natural gas and electricity, the commercial side, which very different markets, commercial versus residential. And we'd bring them a client. And, we did all the work finding the client. They would get some pricing, and then the client would go somewhere else because the people we worked with, the company I was with, they didn't have enough suppliers. So I'm driving one day. A friend of mine says, Joe, you need to start your own. I was like, Jerry, start my own what? He says, you need to start your own company. I was like, all right, I will. And I did. And what I did from the beginning, day one, right? The Achilles heel is because it's a commodity. The only thing a client is looking for is price.
Period.
Because there's not a whole lot of service, right? Turn electricity on and off at the switch. So it was price. So from the very beginning, I knew, and that was my role for 5 years, I would call these multi-billion-dollar suppliers across the country.
Yeah.
Tell them my name, tell them what we're doing. Most of them hung up on me, but I just kept calling them back. Unless somebody cussed at me saying stop, I would always end my call with, I know you're not interested now, but is it okay if I call you back in 90 days and let you know how I'm doing? I never had one person tell me no to that.
Did you get that thick skin, and did you get even that line from the network marketing days?
That line was more. Yeah, that line was more mine because in the network marketing world.
I was curious if it was passed down, because that line is too dang good. I'm like, I love it. By the way, continue. I was just curious.
Well, what I did get from the network marketing world is the idea of creation of relationships, right? So when I'm dialing for dollars, I'm creating a relationship. And the truth of the matter is, I would do it on their voicemails too. And I always would say, hey, Jerry, this is Joe. How are you? Sorry I missed you. I'll call you back in 10 days around 10 o'clock. Is that okay? And I'll call you back. And literally, I'd put it on my calendar. So 10 days at 10 o'clock, I would call them back, leave message.
And when you
message.
did that, you fulfilled a promise that they didn't even know, but you started building that trust and that relationship because you kept your word. It's awesome. I love it.
Yep, and integrity
so many
is the
lessons
primary.
in what you're doing here. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
I'm in awe that you were able to build this big business, and somebody could go out and do this today, maybe in your industry, maybe not, maybe in another industry, whatever, but it's just such nuts and bolts. I know we have AI, I know we have all these other things, and I'm not against technology. I love technology, but when I hear a story like this, it's amazing, because for those that aren't, you know what I mean? There's just opportunity. We're still talking relationships, and we're talking people. Please continue. It's just such a good story. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's the key, and all relationships built on trust. It is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what it is, your marriage, your society, your church, it's all, everything is based on trust first, and then it grows from them. So do what you say you're going to do. And that's what I did. It took me 4.5 months. And so in that world, right, because I figured, well, if I had 5 suppliers, we'd keep some of the business. If I had 10 suppliers, we'd keep more. If we had all of the suppliers, we'd get them all and keep them all. Well, all of the suppliers in that world, the top ones, was about 50, 60 at the time. So that was I wasn't the guy that said, well, I'm just going to do 10 and that's good enough. I'm the guy that wanted to sit down at the poker game, right? And every time I sat down, you sit down at the poker game with 3 aces, you're probably always going to win. And that was my mindset. And for 4.5 years, it took me 4.5 years to get the largest supplier at the time. And I started that relationship 2 weeks in. $1 billion company. I barely had any money. We were brand new, started on nothing. A guy named TJ Navarra, and I called him up, happened to get him. And he literally said to me, he said, Joe, when you actually get bigger, call me back. I said, TJ, I will. Do you mind if I call you back in 90 days and let you know how I'm doing? Right? Took me 4 years. Took me 4 years to get that company, which I won't mention here.
Yeah.
But after that, when we got that, our brand went from competitive pricing to best pricing. And that's what our brand has been on. Because, if you're bringing a client's business to all of the top 30, 40, 50 suppliers, out of those 50 suppliers, you're finding the best price. And that was the goal from the beginning. We always had a sense of long-term keep the client. You can get a client, but keeping the client, the renewal process in our industry was what was so brutal. And because of the systems we created way back when, we grew, we got big, we worked from home from the beginning. We worked from home before it was cool. And then COVID hit. And in our world, we didn't grow during COVID, but, businesses stayed in business. And we made it because of the foresight of what we were building way back when. And that's where we are today.
That's awesome. What an amazing story, and I love it. It's just one of those things, entrepreneurial spirit. This is what I think makes this country and and just entrepreneurship in general great. It's fun. Yes. Let's get into the giving back side of things. What happened to you on the way back from South Africa? Let's get into that.
Sure, happy to. Interestingly enough, that kind of dates back. How I got to South Africa is because 30 years earlier, went into some pretty challenging times went into recovery, drugs and alcohol 30 years ago. I'm 31 years sober now. But back in the day, literally 28 years ago now, I wrote a book. And it was about my story of healing. And we actually wrote 2 books. The first book is out now, Healing Your Addiction. The second book is coming out here soon. But what happened was about 3 years ago, I'm watching a podcast, and a woman says what she says, and super successful entrepreneur on the exiting side, right? And her comment to the podcaster was, everything was great except my marriage. She lost her marriage. And the same voice in me that wrote the book 25 years ago, which I always say my books were channeled through me. I'm kind of the math guy, not the writer. That same voice after 20 years, 25 years, came out and said, it's time for me to get my books out. And in that interim, I built Avion. I was married, and we went our separate ways. I've been a single dad, 2 gifted kids. So that all leads up to, I have my books, I have them out there, and a guy randomly calls me and says, hey, Joe, you want to do a TEDx? I'm like, sure, I'd love to do a TEDx. He says, great, jump on a plane and meet me in South Africa. True story. I never met the guy. Can you say gulp? Sure, I'll go, because I'm that guy. I definitely am. Let's jump in the water, and then we hope we can swim, but if we can't, we'll figure it out. And sure enough, I went to South Africa, got off the plane, and everything changed. I'm that stereotypical middle-class, upper-class white guy from Atlanta, and I say that all the time. I'd never traveled the world much, right? And I went there, and I saw people who had minimal means with big smiles and love in their eyes, and then no means, like no water. I learned 400 million people didn't have water. And that was my revelation coming back on the plane. That's a 15-hour flight, that I needed to do something, and I did. So I went online, went on LinkedIn, and found 2 caregivers, which I supply them with as much cash as I can to help the water in the roofs not pour in. One group has 44 kids, one has 22 over there. And these men that care for these places, the one man, I call him Brother Ben, he's married, he's got a wife, he's got his own son, but any extra penny he has, he helps feed these 22 kids. Because the infrastructure in that world, I don't even know where they are, but, they're not close to, there's no infrastructure. If a kid's parents die, the kid is just left on the corner, literally, and no judgment. That's just how it is. So through that whole process, after my TEDx, a man comes up to me. He tells me that when he's in his mid-30s now, that when he was young, everybody called him crazy because he heard voices. I was like, voices. Now, I know that that's a higher power talking to him. He knows now, 20 years later, and that voice would tell him how and what to do to start a business, a tourism business. Lived in Tanzania his whole life, raised in a village with no shoes. That whole area was his playground. Mount Kilimanjaro, him and his buddies hiked that all the time because it was just the big rock in the way. They just lived there. So he created this amazing global tourism business because of that voice. And I realized coming back that generation after generation after generation of poverty or not much means not much education. And without education, you really you don't have the knowledge to move forward. So Project Smile was created, the website, projectsmile.world, was created as a free online website to educate people. So you can go there, it's all free. And, what I've learned now is that with technology and time and wealth, that all of the challenges on the planet are finances is the only gap. Technology's there, long-standing passion. I've got a gentleman I'm helping out of Dominican Republic that for 19 years he's been working on their water issue there. He's put $1 million of his own money in it, Tom Flynn. Wow. So there's just today, 2025, there are thousands of people that have dedicated their last 10 or 20 years of their life because they're guided to do it. Technology allows for communication, even if they don't have water. You look up, the satellites give them a cell phone. And there's wealth, massive wealth. So the book that I have coming out now, which will be in Barnes & Noble here in a couple of weeks, actually September 15th, it's called We. And We is based on a mantra of ask, listen, live. Ask a higher power for support on a daily basis. Listen to the depths of yourself, which is what all entrepreneurs do. And then live a life for a legacy. And that's where the giving 1% one time comes in, living a life for a legacy. That's where it comes in.
Wow. What do you feel some of the personal benefits of giving back are? As you've gone down this path and as you've obviously dedicated a good portion of your life to it now, and you're also helping and working with others, like what do you think some of those benefits are?
Grace. And I can explain grace now, finally. My entire adult life and the world is full of entrepreneurs and people out there. We pursue gratitude, which is fabulous. Yeah. I love gratitude. But gratitude is the internal experience you receive in your own heart, your own stomach, your own belly, as you accomplish things, as things come to you, right? Harder you work, the more successes, more gratitude. But gratitude is one of those experiences where you can be grateful for something on Monday, whatever the it is. And by Tuesday or Wednesday, it kind of becomes the normal. And then we tend to pursue the next accomplishment, the next big deal, the second $1 million, your kid having the fourth A, all of that, which is wonderful. That's a very successful life. What I learned now, though, is a sense of grace happens as I give back with no expectation of, quote unquote, receiving anything from these people. The guy asked me, I call him Brother Ben because it's kind of a joke. I mean, my social media is exploding. I'm working with people now around the globe. I talk to people in India and Bangladesh and Africa. And unlike here, I say to them all the time, first off, they're all super young. I'm not. I'm 60. And I say, I'm used to Joe. That's kind of the joke. My guy I'm talking about, Brother Ben, he's one of these just awesome people, but his name is 13 characters and two vowels, so and we joke about that a lot. And with Brother Ben, he asked me for $50. And I'm like, what the heck? Why not? And within 5 minutes, he had the money, which tells me that the world is getting smaller because of technology. And then within 2 hours, he sent me a video of 22 kids, orphans, with my picture thanking Uncle Joe for $50. Well, that experience that I got right there, I call it a legacy post. That experience is an experience I've never had before. And I could give you 1,000 things I'm grateful for the accomplishment, the giving back, and that's a sense of grace. That experience I just said to you happened about 90 days ago, but the sense of overwhelming accomplishment or that overwhelming satiation, it just really feels good, is still here. I could give you on and on examples of that. And that's why I say to people, the 1% one time, there's 1 billion people in need. There's 400 million people in Africa without water, but that means there's 8 billion people with means. And, my whole message out into the world now, if I could I'm going to tell 1 million people to give $10,000 over time, and the water issues in Africa would be solved. The only reason they're not solved now is money. 10 years ago, you couldn't really say that. 10 years ago, technology was a big barrier. 15 years ago, there was no one with passion on the ground. That part is over. Technology's there, passion on the ground. Now it's money. And so in my message, I've got a keynote that's called Awakening Greatness. Awaken Greatness. I talk about, what's your legacy? And I did some research on this. Basically, I learned that when someone you love passes, when you're done with the grieving process, right, and mom or dad or grandma leaves you $1 million, after mom or dad or grandma is passed, typically in the following years, you think of them 4, 5, 6 times, maybe. It's just a natural process. So I say to people, if mom passed and mom gave you $990,000 versus $1 million, would it matter to you? And the answer is no. $990,000. Well, thank you, Mom. But that $10,000, if I gave it to a friend of mine who's doing wells in Somalia and has been for 15 years, that $10,000 could bring 5,000 people water. And I learned that in Africa, it's legal to have multiple wives. They will literally marry women, and they call them water wives. They walk for the water. So my whole message is, you know what? That 10 grand, that your kids are already getting $990, right? But that $10,000, we could invest that in with my friend in Somalia or someone in Dominican Republic. I got about 9 people now that I could do that with. And every time that lady who now is not walking a mile and she sees your name on a bronze plaque, this well was donated by the Smith family, she's going to think about you for eternity. And that's my whole legacy post idea. That's the giving of the 1% one time. And in our society today, here in the U.S., stock market, wherever, most people in safe investment are making 4 or 5% a year. So that 1% given is received back in interest in 3 months. So that's the whole message.
Wow. Well, Joe, this has been great having you on the show today, and I'm excited to continue to watch your work and excited for when this book comes out. So that being said, if somebody's listening or watching this and they want to get involved with any of the things that you're working on, including picking up a copy of your book when it goes live, how do they do that?
The best thing would be to go to my name, joemittiga.com. Currently, it's pointed to my TEDx. They can email me at joe@joemittiga.com. I'm in the middle of the process right now of creating a speaker reel in my presentations and all that. But if you look up my name, Joe Mittiga, or go to joemittiga.com, they can find me. And, my whole social media world out there is just showing people that giving back is a really cool thing to do. And the response has just been amazing.
Yeah. It's awesome. Well, for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links on the show notes, so you can just click on the link and head right on over and check out Joe's content. And speaking of the audience, if this is the first time that you've been with Mission Matters or tuned in, this is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Joe, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for sure.